Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Smith, and this is my Religion 374 presentation. I'll be doing this on the King David Hotel bombing, which I learned about from a Google search. A little bit of background for you guys. At this time, the area that's now Israel was referred to as Palestine, and it was under British control from Jerusalem. During this time, there was a parliamentary power that was under Jewish control called the Haganah. And underneath that power, the group specifically responsible for this attack, they're called the Irgun. At this time, terrorist attacks and other acts of violence were very common in Jerusalem. Here's a picture of the King David Hotel after the bombing. It was bombed on July 22nd, 1946. And a security analyst by the name of Bruce Hoffman described this building as the nerve center of British rule in Palestine. In essence, it was a controlling force in the area. On the bottom floor, you would have military offices, intelligence offices, and other essential organizations as you move up the top. Now, the motivation for this attack is pretty unique amongst terrorist attacks. The Haganah, the parliamentary Jewish power, originally approved this attack because the British had recently gained some documents that linked the Haganah and other Jewish insurgency groups to a number of attacks throughout the area. So this bombing was specifically carried out to destroy those documents so that there was no evidence that the attacks were linked in any way to the Haganah or Irgun. Some themes from the class: fundamentalism. As I mentioned before, this can be seen as a defensive action. The Haganah protecting themselves, trying to destroy those documents. A holy land and sacred space. Obviously, Jerusalem has the Jewish faith has a large claim on Jerusalem. They believe that Jews have a divine right to be there. So having British invaders, if you will, they're problematic. And then finally, religious nationalism. As I mentioned before, that Haganah parliamentary group was under Jewish control, so you can see that aspect of religion playing a factor in the governing body in that zone. Some similarities to other acts. 6-Day War. This is the 6-Day War in 1967 that led to Jewish control over Jerusalem. And so, it's similar to this one in just the geographic area and sort of the motivation as well of seeking to overthrow British rule. The Oklahoma City bombing, in the nature of the attack, it's almost spot on. The Irgun were able to install charges underneath the building, kind of similar to the Oklahoma City bombing where they pulled up a van outside. There was a diversionary bomb used, and I believe that the Irgun had set off that charge trying to restrict access to the area to minimize casualties. However, that only ended up drawing more people towards the hotel as injured people were taken inside of King David Hotel. And finally, 9/11, the Muslim attack against U.S. interference in the Middle East. Very similar to what we see here. Obviously, the nature of the attack was to incite rebellion and just rebel against English control over an area that was supposed to belong to the Jews. Differences. So here we can see this is after one of the bombs had exploded. So some of the differences that we see to other attacks. The Haganah actually told the Irgun not to do that attack, or disavowed themselves of the attack. Reportedly, they had tried to communicate to call it off, and the Irgun didn't get the message. Here we see another difference from standard terrorist attacks. The central motivation was actually not to kill people, rather was to destroy documents. However, 91 people still died, so this was a pretty serious attack. Another difference that we see here is that the Ergen claims that a warning was issued to the hotel. However, British and other sources deny that there was any such warning made. And then finally, some claim that the act was a military operation, and the fact that it related to those documents, and it was not an outright act of terror, just aimed at civilian casualties. One of the other reasons that they believe this is because that hotel, the King David Hotel, specifically that Secretariat wing that was bombed, was the seat of British military control over the region. So the outlook for the future. Initially, the attack led to increased conflicts between Jewish militant groups and English government. Though inevitably Jerusalem ended up under Jewish control, the city would continue to experience acts of religious violence. Jerusalem has been a hotbed of religious violence for many decades and will continue to be so for the foreseeable future until there is some sort of resolution reached. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something. Take care. Bye.